In this video, I'm going to discuss views of forms and then the default view property for forms. In the views that I will discuss for forms, I'll talk about datasheet view, form view, layout view, and design view. Then I'll go on and talk about default views when showing data. So I will discuss datasheet view, continuous forms view, single form view, split form view, and main forms. Let's quickly review the different kinds of views there are for forms. So I'm going to right click and I can say design view, for example, and it goes into the design of a form where you can make changes. I can right click again and I can go into layout view, and layout view is another view of a form, but this time you can make changes to it as well, but you also see the data at the same time. Then another view is datasheet view. And that basically shows the data that is displayed in the form, but it just shows it in columns and rows, just like it would in a query or a table. Then finally is form view, and that's just displaying information in a pretty way. So that reviews the different views of forms themselves. Now I want to go ahead and talk about default views for forms. And to do that, I'm going to go into the design view of this form. And you will see that the property sheet is here and it is referring to a form. And if I come down to the default view for this form, it is currently datasheet. So what that means, and let me go ahead and close this. I'll say yes to save it. And so you saw that the default value for that form was datasheet. So if I double clicked on this form and to open it up, it would show datasheet format. Now let's say that I want to have it be in continuous forms. Then I can save this and go back out and double click again. And now this time it shows the records, lots of different records, one on top of the other. Now I'm going to go back into my form and I'm going to go into design view, and this time I'm going to change it to a single form default view. And if I click on close and I click on save and then close, and I open it again, it'll default to seeing only one record at a time. If I want to see the next record, I have to come down here to the navigation bar and click on the arrow to go to the next record. So basically, single view just shows one record at a time. Okay? And so I'm going to right click again and I'm going to go into design view. And now this time I'm going to do a split form. And so I'll go ahead and save my form. And I'll go ahead and close it. And if I double click it now, it will look even more different. It has both the datasheet view and the pretty view, but the thing that's interesting is that it has it here in single form down here. But if I click here, it'll go to a different record and it'll display it down here. So those are some different views of the default view for displaying the actual records. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to close this, and then I'm going to right click again and go into Design View. Now the thing that I want to point out to you is that this is a default view. So if I open the form, that is what it will go to. Access will come to this default view property setting and look at it and see what it says. And then it will automatically go to that view. Now the thing that I want to point out to you is that if I were to just go up here and say right click, and then I were to go into form view, it will show the default value or the default view for form view. But if I right click here and I go back to the design, and let's say that I say datasheet view, and then I come here and I right click and I say form view, it doesn't go to the datasheet view. In fact, it goes to a single view. And the way that I would get it to go to the datasheet view was I would be right click and I'd say datasheet view. And there's where it would show the datasheet view. How I would get it to automatically show the datasheet view would be that this would have to be closed and you would have to double click here and open it with it set to datasheet. So it's a little bit crazy, Access is, how it all works. But what I want to point out to you is, and review for you to get it all clear in your head, is that the default value is what you need to pay attention to for when it's being opened from here. If I were to either right click and click on open, or else just double click, the setting that it has in default view is what will be paid attention to, because that's the automatic view that it will go to. If it says single form view and we were to close this, and then open it, it defaults to single form view. So again, there's datasheet view, single form view, continuous forms, and then there's single form, or I mean split form. So now you've seen the different default views. I want to show you about main forms and how those different default values are used in a main and form with a subform. Here is a design of a main form with a subform. So again, this button right here makes the property sheet show the properties for the main form. And if I come down to default view, it says single form. And if we go into form view, we can see that the form here will show one record at a time for the customers. Remember, this is a one-to-many relationship, and so we have one customer and many orders. So with this main form, it only shows one customer at a time, and we can move forward and see that. One customer in set of information. Okay, but I'm going to go back to design view, and now I'm going to come down here to this subform. Okay, and here you'll notice the default view is continuous forms. So if we go back and we look, and we can see that even though the main form is a single form, the subform is actually a continuous form. And you can see more than one record that shows up. See? Sometimes, instead of a continuous form, you might instead choose to have it be in datasheet form. And so let's go ahead and see what that looks like. I'll put it in datasheet, right click, form view. And now you can see, and so we will go back into design view for this form, and we will look at another view, default view for the subform. So here I'm going to click on the box that will make the property sheet show the properties for the subform. And so here, if I look right now, as I indicated earlier, the datasheet view is the default view. But I could, for example, have single form here. And so then I can come up here and go into form view again for this main form with the subform. And I will see that, in fact, the subform shows only one record at a time. And to demonstrate a little bit better, I'm going to have to go a little bit forward to this record right here. You will notice that this particular main form is showing one record. Well, you'll also notice that this subform is only showing one record. And you can have more than one record show, but not more than one record at a time. So you can see that there's one record here, and then there's another record. Now, the thing that I want to make sure that you know is that in the case where you have the situation where it's just a few fields that go across in a line and they all fit in the line, then probably using the continuous forms option or a datasheet option is a better option for where you have a subform in a main form. But in the case when you have a lot of different fields inside a subform, which is in a main form, then you probably want to have a single form format instead. And I think that that's an important understanding of how to design forms. Should you use a continuous format or should you use a single form format? And it just depends on your situation. So that's the basic thing that I want to make sure you understand is the purpose or why you're doing what you're doing. You need to understand that. And that's the end.